Election Day is November 5th, and one of the big amendments on the ballot, abortion rights. We go on the record and explore both sides of the issue, from pro-life to pro-choice, in our Commitment 2024 coverage.
From WPBF 25, this is On the Record with Nathalie Pozo.
This is likely to be the biggest fight and the one amendment most likely to get national attention. Earlier this year, the state of Florida limited abortion to the first 6 weeks of gestation. This amendment would void that law. Joining me now is Dr. Luz Marina Garcia, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Florida Atlantic University. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here with us. Can you explain Amendment 4 and what is fetal viability under Florida's Constitution?
That's a great question. So the text of Amendment number 4 essentially makes it a part of the state's rules that people have a right to get an abortion before the fetus can survive outside of the womb, which is usually around 24 weeks. That is what we were referring to with fetal viability. So it also says that a woman should be able to get an abortion if the doctor decides it's necessary for her health. The law would say that no other rules can stop or punish someone for getting an abortion in these cases, except for what's written in other rules, including Article X. And however, the initiative wouldn't change the state's government power to make a law saying that parents need to know about their minor if they are getting an abortion, but there could be exceptions if a judge allows it. In other words, a yes means that you're establishing or voting to support the establishment of a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability, again, usually around 24 weeks. And a vote no means that you want a constitutional right for the abortion before fetal viability.
So the amendment would say, if voted yes on the ballot, that in Florida you would be allowed to get an abortion up to 24 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. A poll conducted in August by Florida Atlantic University shows 56% of voters supported an amendment, that's Florida voters, ensuring that no law shall prohibit abortion before viability. So what percentage of votes does it need in order to pass?
Again, we are in a unique state, meaning that if the ballot initiative needs to be passed with a 60%, that 60% mark in November is what's going to determine if we have a constitutional amendment or not. That was a change that was made back in 2006. And so we should be shooting for 60%. And that poll that you mentioned, of 56% support from the FAU Pollcom Lab, was with 1,105 respondents. And it was a representative sample of Florida voters.
Dr. Garcia, what would happen if this does pass in Florida?
If the ballot initiative passes, it would add a new section to Article 1 of the Florida Constitution, and it would add a piece of text that says that limiting government interference with abortion, except as provided in Article X, Section 22. And again, it's to no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. Should the initiative fall short of the 60% mark in November, there would not be an abortion protection in the state's constitution, and the state's 6-week abortion ban would remain in effect.
So what other states have abortion on their November ballot?
We are in good company come November. Now, the measures are different in terms of what they are proposing, the amount of weeks up to abortion, if any. But we are in the company of Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New York, Nevada, and South Dakota. And so it means that a lot of these have been citizen-initiated amendments. Some have been proposed by state legislature, but again, the majority of them by citizen-initiated constitutional amendments.
So if this passes or does not pass, can an amendment be repealed or challenged?
It can. So one of the first things that would probably be explored is if a section is found to be invalid with the constitutional amendment, instead of declaring the entire amendment invalid, a severability analysis would happen. So that means that they would sever the invalid portion of the amendment, and then the remaining amendment would still be in effect. So it would still be valid. And so the text can be challenged, and also it can be repealed eventually in a similar process. as what got it there.
My apologies. If this is taken to court, I mean, how long could that process be?
It would definitely be a tumultuous, I'm sure, and a long process. And so a lot of the times when it comes to contentious supercharged issues, like the one on the ballot in November, it tends to be that we want as many people having their voice heard through their voting processes so that it can really stand because of the majority vote. And again, here we would need 60%. So it seems to me that it would be difficult to challenge, but if it does happen, it would be a long and tedious process.
Dr. Luz Marina Garcia, Assistant Political Science Professor at Florida Atlantic University, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Coming up, we hear from the pro-choice side of the debate.
WPBF 25 and the First Warning Weather Team are excited to be the exclusive broadcast partners of the Cox Science Center and Aquarium.
Learn about science and weather from the most experienced team in the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast.
At the WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Exhibit, you can make your own forecast. Feel hurricane force winds and put your hand inside this tornado.
See the WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Exhibit from the #1 weather team. Visit the Cox Science Center and Aquarium today.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like...
Hey Google, turn on Rocky's Food.
It's like the ultimate connection. See why it's been awarded a Consumer Guide Best Buy and recommended by Consumer Reports. Drive the Nissan Rogue today.
Nissan offers 6 vehicles with starting MSRP under $30,000, like Rogue, with 2.9% financing for 60 months.
The lawyers at Smith, Ball, Baez, and Prather Florida Injury Lawyers have been helping and fighting for car accident victims in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast collectively for more than 100 years.
We work and fight tirelessly for our clients. We have board-certified civil trial lawyers. We have lawyers listed in Best Lawyers and Super Lawyers, and we have an incredibly experienced trial team.
Although we litigate personal injury and wrongful death matters anywhere in the state of Florida, our roots are deepest here in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast with you and your families.
If you've been injured, the lawyers at Smith, Ball, Baez, and Prather will help. Call us at 500-HELP, 500-HELP. With Smith, Ball, Baez, and Prather, help is just a local phone call away.
At Smith, Ball, Baez, and Prather, our legal team lives in this community, supports this community, and serves our clients in this community. Call us at 500-HELP, 500-HELP. Help is just a local phone call away.
At the Healthcare District of Palm Beach County's community health centers,
We care about your overall health.
Dental health,
Women's health.
mental health.
Preventive health.
We care about your care.
with 10 Palm Beach County locations, our team provides the healthcare and pharmacy services you and your family need, regardless of your ability to pay, with or without insurance. Call 561-642-1000 and let us care for you.
Your home is more than an investment, more than just a roof over your head. Over the past 28 years, StormSmart has completed over 100,000 product installations, keeping Florida homes and families protected. From storm catcher screens and aluminum shutters that are designed and manufactured right here in Florida to impact windows and doors, StormSmart has products to protect every opening of your home. Because smart is going with a proven and trusted solution. Call StormSmart today for your free in-home consultation.
You're watching On the Record on WPBF 25.
Joining me now is Laura Goodhue with Planned Parenthood. Laura, thanks for being here with us this morning.
Thanks, it's my pleasure.
So talk to us a little bit about where Planned Parenthood stands on this amendment.
Sure. So Planned Parenthood has seen firsthand the consequences of a near total abortion ban in Florida that started in this past May. We've seen the dire consequences of denying people care, even in cases of rape, incest, or the health of the mother. So we are very confident that the voters will take the decisions about how to, if we want to become parents or not, from politicians and put it back into the hands of patients on November 5th.
What are your thoughts on politicians weighing in on the personal health care decisions of women?
I mean, we've seen women come in who, they have no idea that they're pregnant. They weren't trying to get pregnant. Before 6 weeks is really too soon to even know. And then to only be told, I'm sorry, about a year ago, Tallahassee politicians said that you don't have this decision to make anymore. And so you're going to be forced to give birth. And I think that's just this amendment would stop government from interfering in these decisions. No matter where you feel about abortion, we can all agree that decisions are best made between women and their doctors.
And you talked a little bit about some of the things you have seen. If this does not pass, what do you think will happen in Florida? Will women just go out of state? And what could happen if women do go out of state?
I mean, unfortunately, that's just not even a choice for many women. I mean, we've seen that abortion access is almost non-extinct, is almost extinct in the Southeast. It's very hard to get appointments. But the reality is that we're seeing women who are being turned away from providers for miscarriage management. Or women, because these exceptions in the law are so narrow for the life of the woman or the health, that they're actually going into sepsis. Because their doctor's hands are tied, and nobody wants, doctors should be making these decisions. They should be, looking at their patient and saying, I'm sorry, we have to perform this procedure because this isn't a viable pregnancy. And what we're finding is that doctors are afraid of being thrown in jail, and this puts patients and women in the crosshairs, and it's just completely unnecessary.
What are your thoughts on women who have been raped or are victims of incest?
So there's very narrow exceptions in the law that we have right now. And we've actually seen at least one patient come in and say, I was raped at 13 weeks. We are required to provide documentation. When we asked the police department for that documentation, they told us it was still under investigation. Now, these are women who, have already suffered an unthinkable trauma. To have to even bring this up again, to much less find out that they're carrying their rapist child, is cruel. And so that's why these exceptions just simply don't work for providing the healthcare that people need in crisis moments.
Laura, for people who are undecided right now, who will be heading to the polls in November, but they really don't know, how to vote, what do you want to say to them?
The only way to stop this ban that we're suffering under already is to vote yes on 4 in November. If we don't, government will continue meddling in these very important decisions that only doctors and patients can make.
Has there been any discussions at Planned Parenthood, about what you guys will do if this does pass in November?
Planned Parenthood will continue to provide the full range of not the full range, but most of the healthcare that we can. We provide contraception, well woman visits, behavioral health, vasectomies. We're going to continue to provide that. However, we think it's so important that people be able to access care if and when they need it, whether that's a crisis situation, but really just limiting abortion care to pre-Roe, 1973 days is not the right answer for Floridians, and it's not what the majority of Floridians want in their lives. They'd rather have these decisions to make for themselves instead of, lawmakers writing these laws that don't take anybody's circumstances under consideration.
Laura, I'm trying to find the correct word to use here because I want to talk a little bit about maybe some misconceptions around Planned Parenthood, when maybe someone hears that word or that name and they're automatically like, no, I don't think they should be funded. I don't think anything. What are some of the misconceptions that you would like to address?
Planned Parenthood has been around for over 100 years. So we provide people with compassionate, confidential birth control. That has been a part of our history for a very long time. We do not receive public funding. We do accept Medicaid and Medicare. And people sometimes, can use that, but we rely heavily on donations. We are not government funded. Let's see what else. I think our providers, they could work someplace else, but they're very passionate about what they do. 1 in 3 women in her lifetime will have a need for an abortion or will access abortion care. And so we believe not judging people for the decisions that they make and not stigmatizing them. We think that's really important.
Laura Goodhue with Planned Parenthood, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Next, on the record, we're going to hear from the pro-life side on the issue.
I'm Jill Hazu.
And I'm Erin Burns.
We invite you to join us this Sunday for Total Retirement with Ernie Burns, where we'll discuss wealth management, estate planning, and more.
Ernie was named 2022's Forbes Best In-State Security Professional. You don't want to miss it.
Today, push harder, push forward, push vigorously.
There are things that I am hiding from people that I'm trying to inspire.
You can do whatever you set your mind to.
I feel like a hypocrite a lot of the times.
Don't give up on yourself ever.
Smoking, I hide it because I'm ashamed of it. I want to get out of the shadow. I want to show people there is light away from the darkness. I am going to quit.
Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com to find free resources to help you quit your way.
The stories we cover every day are just as unique as the places we cover them in. And that's why every community matters, from Palm Beach County to the Treasure Coast.
Whether you're planning your day around storms in Port St. Lucie or driving through traffic in West Palm Beach,
we're here to make sure you never miss breaking news wherever you live.
Watch WPBF 25 News Mornings everywhere, every day.
The new driving force in severe weather coverage. The WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Live Tracker.
The most technologically advanced weather vehicle on the road.
Taking you inside the storm real time so you can prepare.
With street level accuracy, right down to your neighborhood.
Trust WPBF 25 First Warning Weather, keeping you safe, informed, and prepared.
When severe storms are on the move, so are we.
The WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Live Tracker, powered by DuraGuard Roofing.
When we seek medical care, we reasonably expect and usually receive proper diagnosis and treatment. However, in those rare situations when medical professionals fall short, the consequences can be catastrophic. If you believe you or a loved one has been the victim of medical malpractice, call 333-3333 for a free claim evaluation. The time to file a claim is limited, so don't delay. And remember, we don't get paid unless you do.
Certain this is gonna work?
Nothing to it.
For Imprint certain?
Certainty matters. 4imprint is your home for promo gear to wow clients and inspire your team. Check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
When it comes to upgrading to a beautiful commercial grade floor from Ox Floors, numbers matter. How about 10 times stronger than epoxy? Professionally installed in 1 day by a 5-star company. Ready to walk on in 3 hours. Financing available from $59 per month. But the most important number? Ox Floors phone number, 772-758-5851. Call now to get your free estimate and 30% off. Upgrade your garage floor, pool, deck, or patio now with Florida's #1 choice, Ox Floors.
Watch Sandra Shaw on WPBF 25 News Mornings.
Welcome back. Joining me now is John Stemberger, president of Liberty Council Action. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for being here with us. First off, let's talk a little bit about the organization and the mission.
Sure. So Liberty Council Action has been around for the last 14 years, and we are basically advocating for life and liberty issues in legislative bodies, in Congress, and in state legislatures around the country. We also engage very actively in state constitutional amendments, as we are here in Florida, since our headquarters is here in Orlando, Florida.
What do you want to see happen on Election Day here in Florida?
Well, goodness, we hope that Floridians all over this state, pro-choice and pro-life Floridians, wake up and realize we just voted against Amendment 4 because it is extreme and it's not what it seems whatsoever. We believe that the amendment, when it's really understood, the impact of it does not represent the views of Floridians in the main, or even those that would call themselves pro-choice. It leads to abortion up to birth. There's no restrictions. There's no doctor requirement. There's no parental consent in the amendment. And there's also the possibility this could lead to taxpayer funding of abortion. So this is just not what Floridians want. So we really hope they're going to wake up and say no on Election Day to 4.
And John, we spoke with an assistant political science professor earlier in the show from Florida Atlantic University. They have a poll out that they conducted in August, and it says 56% of Florida voters are in favor of Amendment 4. 23, though, are still undecided. You know, what are you guys thinking that you can do from now until November to maybe get people who don't know how to vote on this issue?
Yeah, well, we're asking people to really read the language, especially the financial impact statement. The other side is talking about very lofty terms, you know, government and a doctor and a woman. We just want folks to read the language, because if they read the language, they realize there's no parental consent in this. It removes parental consent. There's possible taxpayer funding of abortion. This happened just in Michigan. Michigan, they passed a similar amendment, and now the pro-abortion rights community is trying to challenge it, saying that taxpayer funding and Medicaid should be going to pay for abortions in Michigan. And so this is a very broad and extreme amendment. So we just want folks to read the language carefully before they vote, and to vote no on 4.
What do you say, John, to people who believe this is a healthcare issue and not a religious issue?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a scientific fact. It's hard science that life begins at conception and it ends at natural death. You don't need to be a Christian or a Jewish person or a Muslim to believe that. That's just science. We also don't believe that taking the life of a human being, which is what an abortion is, it actually removes and destroys another human being, is actually necessarily healthcare. Oftentimes it's not necessary at all. It's done for the convenience of the person and not always for health reasons. There are health reasons, the life of the mother, there's an ectopic pregnancy, and there's exceptions for those reasons as well.
I want to talk a little bit about, you know, your opinion on if there should be exceptions for when there's incest or maybe victims of rape.
Sure. Well, the law does provide for that. And this is very disturbing because the other side is running ads. They ran them all yesterday, right before the debate, basically saying that there are no exceptions in the law. And there are exceptions. For the first 15 weeks, there's exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother, for fatal abnormalities. That's right in the statute, section 390 of Florida statute. So there are exceptions in the law, but there are many people that believe, look, it doesn't matter how this child came about, this should be protected, but the law does have exceptions.
Do you agree with the way the amendment is worded? Some people say it's not clear.
Oh, goodness, it's not clear at all. Most amendments have definitions. The Pregnant Pig Amendment years ago had definitions. The medical marijuana amendment, it had 4 pages of definitions. Amendment 4 has no definitions whatsoever. So key terms like viability, healthcare provider, health, all these terms are not defined. So it really makes for a very squishy situation where they can argue later on to a court that these mean a variety of different things. And the word health is specifically is very, very broad. Supreme Court and the World Health Organization have extremely broad definitions for health. So even something like mental distress or even back pain could justify an abortion. And so we don't think this is good law or good policy. So we want people to vote against Amendment 4. It's just too extreme. And it's not what it seems at all.
And John, if this does pass, you know, it could be challenged in courts. And as we learned earlier from that political science professor, it could be a very long process in the courts. Where does your organization go from there?
Well, look, we're praying and hoping and working very hard that this doesn't pass, because if it does pass, it's going to be permanent. Courts will be strong by it. When you raise something to the level of a fundamental constitutional right, like abortion, like freedom of speech or freedom of religion, and that's what we're doing here, any law that burdens that right is automatically going to be struck down unless it can meet a very high standard. So this is for all the marbles. This is the ultimate pro-life battle. This is really for good public policy forever in Florida. This will not change if this goes into our Constitution. And so the courts will have to interpret it, yes, but it is a permanent decision regarding a irreversible, lifelong decision. So we're asking folks to really think hard when they vote and to vote no on 4.
John Stemberger with the Liberty Counsel Action, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for reaching out to us.
On the Record, we'll be right back after this.
We're here to keep you safe this hurricane season.
WPBF 25 First Warning Weather. The team with years of experience tracking the tropics in South Florida. On air, in our app, in your feeds.
We're here for you this hurricane season with trusted information, warning you first to changing conditions.
Number 1 in severe weather coverage and certified most accurate.
This hurricane season, trust WPBF 25 First Warning Weather.
Get exclusive offers on select new Volvo models. Contact your Volvo retailer to learn more.
When a storm hits, Florida needs a power company that's ready. That's why we work year-round to build a stronger grid. And when needed, restore power safely and as quickly as possible. Because at FPL, we're working every single day to get you the reliable electricity you need in good weather and bad, so you can focus on what matters most. FPL, working for you every single day.
There are a few places where you know you'll hear the truth, and this is one of them.
With HealthSun Health Plans, life is a piece of cake with access to exclusive providers that take care of all my medical needs, and all under the same roof.
It's like a Medicare makeover. With HealthSun, every year you can receive $1,978 back in your Social Security check, $600 for OTC items, and much more. Take it from me. I'm Mr. Sunshine. Your health deserves a 5-star plan. Call us today.
An injured worker left me a message that said, "You probably won't call me back. I'm just a nobody." I called him right back. Nobody's a nobody, and no one deserves a better firm than you.
When Morgan said nobody is a nobody, I felt like that. And they took care of me, and now we're doing okay. Thank God that I went to Morgan & Morgan.
We went with the website nuts.com because nuts and dried fruit and pretzels and trail mix and gummies and chocolate and espresso beans and malted milk balls and crackers and popcorn and sesame sticks and veggie chips and energy squares and fudge and jelly beans and seeds and rock candy and saltwater taffy and dried berries and fruit leather and bars and jerky and a whole lot more .com was already taken. Get 20% off and free shipping on your first order at nuts.com. Yes, we have more than nuts, but still the website is just nuts.com.
Cool Roof has the only roof system with a Cat 5 hurricane warranty. Call now.
Thank you for making us a part of your morning. As always, we encourage you to be part of our discussion each and every Sunday right here at 10 a.m. Until then, you can watch this morning's On the Record and every episode on our website, WPBF.com, and on our free WPBF 25 News app. Matter of fact, with Soledad O'Brien is next. We'll see you again next Sunday.
WPBF 25 News Mornings. Aaron, Stephen, and Nathalie with today's headlines.
And breaking news from overnight.
On stories happening right now.
From the Palm Beaches to the Treasure Coast.
With Sandra's most accurate forecast to help you prepare. And Yasmin, South Florida's only dedicated traffic anchor.
Watching backups impacting your commute. And a 12-hour forecast for your entire day.
Watch the most experienced local morning team. WPBF 25 News Mornings. Live, local, late breaking. The #1 choice for news and weather in the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. WPBF 25 News at 6 p.m. Live, local, late breaking.